Should you start a startup? Now, before answering that question, let me tell you a bit about myself. The answer will make much more sense. So, I graduated from class 10th in 2013. At that time, I decided to pursue automobile engineering. Well, engineering was at the top during that time, so and I loved automobiles. I mean, a boy who doesn't love cars. Just I love cars, in short. So the choice was made by me. Automobile engineering was decided. Engineering was on top, so it was a default choice. It was very simple and easy choice to make. So I made that choice. I gave the exam. So a lot of engineering colleges around here don't really offer automobile engineering as a. So there was a diploma course that offered automobile engineering. I decided to go for diploma, gave the exam, got the rank, got the college, but then well, decision was made to not go for diploma. So I decided to pursue 11th and 12th from Faridabad. That's where I am resident. So got in the school, did my 11th and 12th, graduated from there in 2015. In 2015, again the choice came up to decide what to do. Again, the engineering. So still, what happened? So I graduated in 2015 from class 12, and again the choice came up: what to do now, which course, which degree to pursue. So the default choice back then was if you did medical, you'd be a doctor. If you did non-medical, you'd be an engineer. And if you did arts, you'd be, well, whatever you want to be. There, then you have endless options from whatever the rest of the things that you would choose from, including civil services, of course. So, since I did non-medical, default choice was to be an engineer, even though the market at the time was really bad, like there were no jobs. So, my father is a lawyer, and well, he inspired me to become a lawyer as well. See, the choice was made mainly on two grounds. One was to I did not want to work for anyone, right? So if you work for someone, you are not really working for yourself, are you? You're not the boss. You have to follow the orders and you are really just leading your life on someone else's instructions. That is not the kind of life that I could see myself living in the long term, right? Working for a company is great, but you have another person on top of you, they have another person, they have another person, they have another person. You have to follow that hierarchy and you're just another employee. So I did not want that to be my life. Now, the other thing that really inspired me was the monotony of the work. To, first of all, to not be your own commander, to not be your own captain of your own ship in your life. It's already a big demotivator at that time. Even it was for me, at least. A lot of people do enjoy corporate jobs, and it's one of the most stable jobs, most predictable system out there. So I mean, it's not really even a question in that regard that a lot of, in fact, I would say more than around 80% of the people choose to get jobs. It's stable, it's easy, you have to do, a certain set of tasks, and when you do them, you are done. That's all. That's your that's your job description. That's your job profile. That you do it, you're done. You can go home, live your life. The second reason was really the monotony, or it is somewhat related to not having freedom. You know, what really inspired me for my father to be a lawyer was to have that freedom and not really be bound by 9 to 5. Both of these reasons are kind of overlapping in a sense, uh, not having a boss and everything else. They do overlap. It all comes down to um, freedom actually. So when I did decide that I don't want to go for engineering, the other option that came right in front of my eyes was law. So I chose law. I gave the exam. Uh, so I had no idea till that time. So I graduated in what I think results came around April, May, around somewhere, 2015, and had no time because the exams and forms were to be filled. So I filled those forms, did a crash course for a month, got a decent college, had no idea. Like at that time, I had no idea what colleges were available, like zero idea. In a month, made the decision, got a decent college, I would say it's good enough. I graduated. I managed to graduate, I would say, because law was not really my interest or anything. It just came to me. Although I do, respect or even love law, it it really changed my perspective in a lot of things. Graduating from law, I knew, I realized, and I learned things that I would have never learned if I did not do it. So I am really privileged in that sense, you could say, to have done my graduation in law. So I graduated in 2020, peak COVID, right? Lockdowns. So really great for job opportunities. Yeah. So a lot of everything was shut down, right? Courses were open, but how are you going to? The placements were off, right? Colleges were shut down. How are you gonna find jobs? So you had to wait a year or so to get your license and then look for jobs. Or I would say, in place of a job, I would say look for places to work at, because job is something that we are trying to avoid, right, from the initial point. And the system that it works is you find a senior advocate, you work under them, they teach you, you learn from them, and then you do your own thing at whenever point you can. That was the plan. I practiced from, so I got my license in what? So I graduated in 2020. I got my license in March of 21, I think. That's when I got to, manage to get my enrollment done in bar. So got that, started practicing, started to learned a lot. I mean, I joined the offices of that's gonna be a very long video. I'm gonna cut it short. I'm gonna cut it short. So I joined a legal office at Changpura, worked there for like mm, a decent enough time, say, couple of years. Then joined another office very close. Worked there for a couple of years. So till I'll say this year, 2026, I worked there and began in 21. So almost 5 years, 5 plus years. Well, if you include before I 5 plus years, right? So, so I worked there for 5 plus years, and you know what? I realized over the time that this is my life, and I was tired of it. There were a couple more things, so okay, I'll explain. So when you do law, there are two major directions that you can go, either judiciary or lawyer. Why did I not go for judiciary? Well, you know what? Judiciary is a really great place to be. You get, I mean, becoming a judge is all about power, right? You get powerful, you get prestige. I mean, societal prestige for a judge is really, really great. You get, respect, a lot of respect from everyone, be it your family members. In fact, your family members are proud of you that you're a judge. So, but why did I not want to be a judge? Because it again comes down to 9 to 5. A judge has to sit in the court 9 to 5, work in the same type of cases every single day, day in and day out. That is what I wanted to avoid from the beginning. Like that is my purpose of not doing law. Sorry, not doing engineering. And then to get back, I mean, see, becoming a judge, a lot of people, their dream is to become a judge, right? I never wanted to. Like that is, I could not see myself with gray hair, walking in the same coat every day, wearing the same shoes, same set of clothes, uniform that you have to wear. And that is like, I could do suffocating, absolutely suffocating. That's the word that comes to my mind when I think about that. So I did, I started practicing law. It was the most difficult time because I had no connections, and to get into a really good office, uh, a really prestigious office of an advocate, you have to have those connections. I had none. So I was starting from scratch, almost like a first generation lawyer. A lot of this would not uh, make sense because of the video title, but just wait. It will make much more sense as the video progresses. So what happens is that over the years of me working as a lawyer, I realized, what, I'll tell you how it makes how it, when you join an office, you don't know anything about law, about practicing law. You learn a lot. For the first couple of years, I learned a lot. It was amazing. You have to manage an office. You have to manage the dates, the cases, the files, the documentation. You have to learn how to create those documents, right? It's very interesting. When you first begin, you have a lot to learn. I loved that. There were a lot of problems in managing the office, and a lot of tracking, a lot of case management, file management, drafting, arguing in the court. So it was great, a lot of learning. But then over the time, what happens, and a variety of cases as well. So what cases are really are problems that you have to take before the court and get them resolved. Like that's really what an advocate does. He takes a problem, he drafts a document to put before another person and tries to find a solution, and gets it resolved. That's really what a lawyer does. You could say I could use a lot more words too, but simplifying, that's what a lawyer job is. So couple of years I learned a lot. Then I joined another office. Couple of years there I learned a lot as well. What I realized over the time is that when you have learned enough, then the time comes to practice, right? You have learned enough. What you're gonna do now? You're gonna practice it. And practicing gets monotonous very quickly. Like you have learned. So I used to practice, like there are, when advocates start practicing, they get certain types of cases. When those certain types of cases they practice over and over, they become experts in those. When they become expert in those, they get more of those type of cases, right? That's how really an expert advocate would function. That's how really you would climb the ladder. So when you get the same type of cases every day, again and again, monotony kicks in. Then you have a lot of work. You have a certain set of time that you have to function in the court. So you would begin, the court opens at around, 10. So from 10 to 5, the courts are open. You have to be in the courts. You are arguing, you are doing this, you are doing that. Very quickly, it became clear to me that it is not that far from a corporate job. Mind you, I did not join a corporate legal firm. Like it was not a proper corporate legal firm, it was a firm. So, in a sense, you could say it was a startup legal firm, but not really a startup. It was a very well established, solid firm. But a lot of things in a lawyer's office are to be managed by a few people that are working there. You don't have, separate departments for every function. When it became monotonous, I got like that it became suffocating. Again, I was doing the same kind of work every day, over and over. There was nothing more to learn. Of course, there are when you are handling, different cases, there are different names, different people, all of that is different, different questions. But when you get into that rhythm, some people enjoy getting to the rhythm. When you're repeating the same things over and over, some people enjoy that. It was extremely painful for me. So I made the call. I am not gonna continue this. There were multiple reasons, there were multiple layers to it. Somewhere I read, so I was junior in that office, right? Junior associate. I read that if you continue to be junior for more than 4 years, you're gonna be a junior for your whole life. So I decided that's not the thing that I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna be that guy, right? So I decided, that was also another reason that motivated me to find my own trade. I decided I'm gonna move out of this office. I'll stay connected. So I moved out, but I continued to work with the same two firms that I had, joined from the day one. I worked as a freelancer with them. I would prepare cases, whatever the tasks were handed over to me, I would handle those. So, and then, a, a point comes in your life when you try to think, what am I even doing, right? Like, what is the point? What is going on? Nothing is making sense, right? What are you trying to do? What am I trying to achieve? Am I trying to be a lawyer? If yes, then how am I going to do it? You try to find that answer to that question, right? If I want to be, Ram Jethmalani, which of course is like a Steve Jobs of like what Steve Jobs is in the business world is Ram Jethmalani, Mr. Ram Jethmalani was in the legal world. So if you want to be at the pinnacle, at the top, how are you going to reach there? First, start very early. That was not like whatever it is, where you can start only where you are. So I decided, okay, if this is how I'm gonna do it, I started to look for more opportunities to work with other firms as a freelancer, so you can get those cases. You don't get those cases out of nowhere. It's not easy to get uh, cases as an advocate with black hair or hair on your head. It's not easy. People just don't want to trust you unless you're targeting corporates or you have connections, friends, circle, or you're great at networking. I was not really a great at networking. I had a very small circle. I was couple of years back. I was a big introvert, so my personality was never really to go out there and talk to people. Anyway, coming back, so another, after I tried to get everything working as a freelancer. I got nowhere, right? Now freelancing is again is like starting a business, right? It's a mini nano startup. You try to find customers, you try to find clients, you try your ways, but you cannot, there are limitations to what you can do. You cannot market yourself, you cannot solicit, so there are rules in ethics. So it was not easy. So you know what I decided? It's not working. Let's see what other things that I can do. I went back. I thought, you know what, everybody want, and this was time when everyone was pushing me for judiciary. So I decided, you know what, let's give it a try. I'm gonna be a judge. I was motivated. I think a lot of movies came as well that about civil services. So I got really inspired. I thought, you know what, let's be a judge. What is stopping me from becoming a judge? Like I have the brains, I have the mind, I have the capability, I have the resources, I have everything. So what is stopping me from becoming a judge? Nothing, right? Let's become a judge. Becoming a judge is prestigious. Again, all those same things. Prestigious, respectful, you get power, you get everything. You get certain other things as well that I'm not gonna say on this video. But it judge is a judge, man. You cannot argue with that. A judge is a judge. To be a judge is it's a big deal. So I decided let's do that. I was really motivated. I was working as a freelancer at the time. So let's do it. I got enrolled in the courses. I started it. I studied really hard, got prepared, but then notification never came out. I waited and waited. I was still preparing at this point. Then it came to me that this was never really the goal. Like, what am I doing? So I had a conversation with someone very important in my life, right? And we talked about money and power. So to be a judge, you get power, right? Power as in you get influence, and well, you get respect, you get prestige. Now all of those things are very important to live in a society. There are other things that I'm not going to say on the video, but you know what I'm talking about when I say word power, right? You know what I'm talking about. So when I was talking to that person, it came to me that so I was really defending my idea about judiciary, and they were on the other side, right? They were saying about money. Money as in business, trade, or whatever, right? Money as in money. So I said, you know what? How much money is enough money? There's no really a limit. As much money as you need to survive, and then respect, prestige. That's what you really need. So while going through that, I also, after that discussion, I thought to myself, you know what? This was never really my original idea. What I wanted originally was freedom. And becoming a judge is not really gonna give me that. Like I thought initially that becoming a judge will give me freedom. Judge is like really powerful. Like he doesn't have to follow other people. So, but the reality of the fact is that there is a hierarchy. There is a judge, there is a DJ, there is a high court, there is a Supreme Court. You cannot do whatever you want. Like there is no freedom. The lowest judge is bound by every single one of those tiers. There is just no freedom. You have to do what you are told to do. So coming back, it is not really that different from a corporate. You have a boss, like like you have those cases that are assigned to you. You have to handle those. You have to come in every day, work from 10 to 5, even more if it is required, and then you go back. And then monotony, you have to deal with the same type of cases. What there are two procedures. There is CPC, there is CRPC that you have to again, Bhartiya Saksh, sorry, BNSS, भारतीय नागरिक सुरक्षा संहिता, भारतीय भारतीय नागरिक सुरक्षा संहिता, and then CPC. You have to you have to go to the court and deal with these two laws every single day. It's so monotonous, so hell for a person like me who likes to solve problems. Like that's what I like. I like looking at things and finding solutions that work. I like making things work. That's why I wanted to be engineer because I wanted to make things work. I realized that very late about myself, like very recently. And so I decided, judiciary was never really the goal. What actually is my goal? What actually is that I want to do in my life? And the answer was like it was very simple from very beginning. I want to retire early. I don't want to be working when I'm 60 years old. Like I want to be working not for my needs, but for my wants. I want to work. I want to work. I will work. But I don't want to be bound by working constantly. So retiring early, at 40, 45, 50 even, doesn't matter. I wanted that freedom. Freedom is something that I've always been looking for. And you know what? Judiciary is not going to give me that freedom. Let's be honest. Judiciary is not going to give me that freedom. It's going to give me prestige. It's going to give me respect. It's going to give me everything. It's a good paying job as well, but it's a job. That's that is exactly what I did not want to do from the initial beginning. And there are a lot of people that dream about this. Their dream job. I did not have a dream job. In fact, my dream was to never have a job. Like not as in like not have a job, as be unemployed, but to not be working for someone. I wanted to work for myself. That's why I became a lawyer. That was the whole point. And to abandon that, it made no sense. And then when this discussion with that, very important person happened, I realized that, you know what, maybe I don't want to be a judge. My end goal has always been to retire early, right? How do you retire early? Either you make tons of money very quickly, like you find either a lottery or something, and then you retire, or you inherit a lot of money and then you retire, or you start a business that makes a lot of money and then you retire. You automate the business and you retire. So the first two were never really an option. The third one, it really clicked. Like it was in the back of my mind, but it really clicked. It really made sense. So all of this story would culminate into this one point. That point is that my goal has been to retire early and to have freedom. Both of these goals coincide with having a business. And that is why I made that call to start a startup. That has been the journey of my life. Now, for every other person, it's going to be different. Everyone has different goals, everyone has different needs, different wants. My life has brought me to this point where there were a lot of this discussion is not just one time discussion. This has happened a lot of times at varied stages of my life as well. But when I talked with this person, like this person was, I made that call that quickly. So I talked with the person again and I said, you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking I should get a job first at this stage, to, have a means of survival and then probably begin a business. That conversation went nowhere. Then life happened, and after a lot of things, I made the call that getting a job is and then working in it is gonna be very time consuming. Why did I want to get a job? So that I can, have a means of survival while I work at the startup. But then now I have made that call that, you know what, working at a startup is not easy. So this startup is it's not only me who's working at this startup. I have thought of for a lot of ideas, but then, I came together with two people, and then we came up with this great idea about the startup. I'm gonna disclose that idea later when, that idea is mature and all of that is at a stage where I can disclose it. So till that time, uh, just think of it as a startup that I'm working on right now. So yes, I am working on a startup, and that was the thing that made the call for me. Now, for every person, it's gonna be a different reason. For every person that makes that call, that why do you want to be? And you know what? I am almost, I am 29 at this age. So I am 29 at this age. I'm 29 years old right now. So I made this call today. You might be much younger than me. You might be much older than me. And you might have different reasons. But if you really feel that the kind of job that you are doing right now does not make sense to you, I think you should weigh in your options and really sit down and make that call. For me, the call became very easy after talking to that person that, if I want to retire early, then why am I not doing it? What is stopping me? Because if I do start a business today, right, I'm 29, it's gonna take me at least 5 years to bring it somewhere like really solid, and then 5 more years to scale it up, right? Like business is not easy. You can start it, but then committing to it's no different than a marriage. You have to be in it, and we're gonna talk about that in the later videos. But for now, that decision to start the business and coming up with that idea, starting the project, we have, it's a website that we are developing that's gonna get come live, and then I'm gonna disclose that at appropriate stage. So that is how my decision happened. Now let's talk about should you start a startup, right? That's why you are here. You want to know about yourself. You have been thinking about starting a startup. Every friend circle has those discussion. Let's do a business. Let's do a business. But then it never really concretizes. It never really, that idea never matures. That idea only stays in the discussions. Let's start a business. But what business? You have no idea. And should you even start a business? Because you probably have a job. You're working in the office. You are tired of working, and then you every day, every time you sit with friends, you are like, you know what? Let's start a business, man. This is not it. I don't enjoy my job. I'll tell you what. It's tough. It's not enjoyable. Startup is not going to be easy either. But then at least you would have uh, you could say to yourself, just like me, that I'm working for myself. Although society is not gonna support you in a lot of that. To leave your job and start a business, a lot of people are gonna say you're stupid. But that's your call. I made the call for myself. That's your call to make for yourself. Now let's talk on certain other points. So first of all, if you want to start a startup, so I have some points to talk about. I'm going to talk about those. So if you want to start a startup, don't think you're going to be Steve Jobs, right? Like not every startup is gonna end up at the scale of Apple. Not every startup is gonna become Microsoft. Not every startup founder is gonna become Elon Musk, right? That's that's like rare unicorns that just happen. There are thousand more. These are the top tier ones that everybody knows about. But not every startup is gonna reach that scale of $1 trillion. So Amazon. You might come up with an idea like Amazon, Flipkart, that works in India. In fact, there's a lot of online selling platform that work, but Amazon is the one that survived and scaled the biggest. So you're not gonna be Jeff Bezos. So I'll absolutely tell you to not think about that when you're trying to think about startups, right? That is just not gonna happen. So, and secondly, don't watch movies and get inspired to become a startup founder. Do not. Like movies are not really gonna tell you anything about reality. That is not how business works. That it looks really glamorous, to start a startup and then suddenly you have all the money, and founders are throwing, sorry, investors are throwing money at you. You're just catching everywhere. You just have this one great idea that's gonna change the world in your mind, and then you try to execute it and nothing happens. So don't follow the movies. You're not gonna come up with an idea like Facebook. It's very difficult, right? You're not gonna invent TikTok. You're not gonna invent Instagram. These things just happen. Don't think that you're gonna be the person who invented, and you could absolutely be. I'm not saying that it's never gonna happen, but don't start thinking about that when you begin. Like at the initial stage, be very modest, be very realistic, and think, if it works, great. If it doesn't, well, there were at least 100 apps that were like Instagram that never scaled. Instagram is Instagram today and acquired by Meta later. WhatsApp. There is Telegram, but WhatsApp still dominates the market. So next question that comes up is, who is a good startup founder? You want to know if I will be a good startup founder, right? Like everybody wants to know, am I really the right person to be a startup founder? Like, am I the future Steve Jobs? Am I the future Steve Jobs from Misho? Like even a Steve Jobs from Misho is a big deal, right? So can am I that? Like, do I have those qualities? What are those qualities? And honestly, those that there is no answer to that. Like, if you're gonna go out and think of a person of a CEO that has a $1 million business, you cannot look at their face and tell, why, yes, this is the guy who looks like a businessman. A stockbroker looks more like a businessman than an actual businessman. So you that classic imagination that we have about a businessman, that's not how a startup founder looks like. A startup founder really is unassuming. You cannot look at that person and say, he could create a great startup. So there's not really a concrete answer that I can give you in that regard. People that look the most unassuming, the most, you know, you look at them and think, I don't know if he's a businessman or not. They turn out to be they turn out to be really great startup founders. That's just how it is. You look at the news, and if you follow that trend or that domain, you would look in the news and see college students getting funding from IIM A, IIM B, or wherever. You are not that student, right? You did your job, you graduated from whatever field that you wanted to, and you don't really have any idea about, you did not do your MBA, right? These kids went to IIM Ahmedabad, and now you're watching them on news that they got funding for this great idea that they had. I'll tell you this, funding does not guarantee the success of a startup. A lot of startups do get funding, but they never succeed. So I'm telling you, don't be uh, uh, disheartened by the fact that if you did not go to IIM, you will not be a great founder. There is just no guarantee. A lot of people graduate from these MBAs, and they're not doing their own business. They have no idea how to. And that's the story of a lot of people. Even me, when I separated from that office and began my own little venture regarding my own legal practice, I had no idea how to navigate the difficulties of a mini business. I had no idea. Even now, when I'm working on this startup, I have no idea. But over the years, I have learned those skills from working at this office to solve the problems that I have no idea about. So that's what I'm doing right now, and that's really what everyone is doing as well. So, you know, you can't really say if you are going to be a great startup founder or not unless you do it. That's the only way to know. You start a startup, and only then you will get to know if you can be a great startup founder or not. You know what? At the same time, I would say there are still some traits of a great startup founder. You have to be that person who does not stop. You have to be resilient. What do you mean by resilient? You have to have perseverance. You have to persist. You have to have those traits, because a lot of times when you start a startup, you will have an idea, and a lot of times these ideas are revolutionary. That's what a startup is, right? It's not a business, it's a startup. It's innovative. That's why it's a startup. Otherwise, it's just, what's the difference between a startup and a business? Airbnb, Amazon, or you know what, Oyo, they are startups. A cafe shop, a restaurant, a hotel, these are businesses. A shop, that's a business. A mall, that's a business, right? They are not startups. They are not solving any issue, any problem that exists in the market, and there is no solution for it, or not a better solution for it. So that's what distinguishes a business from a startup, right? So when you begin a startup, people are not going to believe in your idea. Like, you have to prove it, you have to show it. You will get a lot of people that will say no. You will get a lot of rejections. You will have to face a lot of difficulties, and a lot of people do give up. That's the harsh truth. A lot of people do give up, and you have to face those rejections, improve, and keep going. You can't take those personally, right? Like, all these people that you are trying to convince, you can just say, throw tantrums like, oh, these people just don't know my product is 10 years ahead of its time. They just don't understand this idea. You have to show them, you have to prove it to them, and you will see and face a lot of rejection, a lot of problems in your business that you won't have any idea how to resolve, how to solve. But then you have to find the solutions. You have to convince the people that, in fact, you have to convince yourself as well that your product is good. Because when motivation dies off, when that initial energy is faced by rejection, and then a lot of the energy you have slowly fades away, You really need to pull in that resilience in yourself and just go through with it. Like just hold it, just go through with it. So that is really a big trait of a great founder, in my opinion, at least. I mean, of course, I'm not the expert, but you know what? As any person who does his research, I went on YouTube, watched a lot of videos. I went to through ChatGPT, but ChatGPT just doesn't give the best answers when you know it's a difficult problem. It just is not really the best thing. So I went on YouTube, watched a lot of videos, a lot of opinions, a lot of ideas, but nothing is really concrete. Everyone has different experiences, so you can learn from those experiences, but then you cannot, uh, concretize a one statement that would resolve everything. That would tell you what a great founder is. They will tell you about examples, right? A lot of people, this is how he did it, this is how he did it. There are different ways, there are a million different ways that you can make it, and you can only make it if you are resilient enough. So that's one thing. And by the way, the confidence, a lot of people, when they look confident, because these Shark Tank, right? Shark Tank. A lot of people have been watching Shark Tank and thinking, you know what? I could do that, right? Like I could go into the meeting and convince a panel of people that my product was great. I'll get funding. That that's that's not really how startup works. Like you have to have a lot of metrics, numbers, in a sense, like, right, to become a business. You have to do a lot of things right. You have to have an idea that makes sense. A lot of ideas that a lot of people do come up with in startups change, right? They try that idea, they work in the startup and it doesn't work. They change their idea, they come up with something new, something different, maybe slightly here, maybe slightly there, maybe a lot different, and then that works. But that will only happen if you're resilient enough. If you give up, and a lot of people will give up because not everyone can survive. That is what differentiates a good startup founder from well, not good startup. See, there's just no from a founder that gives up, right? Let's use let's use that. So confidence is not really a replacement for resilience. A lot of people will sound confident, but then when they do face rejection 15 times, 49 times, that's going to happen. They give up. Confidence will not replace resilience. You have to be resilient. You have to come back over and over and over. That's how it is. That's how you're going to have to do it. Because after 20 days, after 1 week, after 49 days, that confidence will wave off, right? And when problems will start creeping in, you would not know how to solve those problems with confidence. Like you need that resilience. You need to be able to solve those problems. Exam toppers, a lot of people say, oh man, I'm not from Ahmedabad. I am Ahmedabad. I did not graduate from there. I did not get even admission there. So I cannot be a great founder. These toppers, I'm not a topper. I did not get good academics. So maybe I'm not cut out for a startup. That's not really how it works. Because when problems hit, what do you do? Because when problems do hit, what you gonna do? That is what really differentiates a good startup founder. So I mean, toppers and academics, they do help. If there's a great MBA graduate who has great ideas and is resilient, I mean, god damn it, there's nothing perfect than him to be a startup founder. But then that will not guarantee a successful Even a great idea doesn't guarantee a successful startup. I'll tell you this. No matter what great idea you have, if you cannot execute it, that idea is worth nothing. That idea is worth nothing. It's the execution that the startup is. Idea is not a startup, execution is. How do you execute and come to market with that? How do you iterate? How do you improve it? That's a startup. Idea is not really a complete startup. It is the precursor to a startup. That's how you begin, but that's not how you scale or create a complete startup. You know, that resilience, that persistence, that perseverance, a lot of people might not have that, but they learn. Sometimes, what will happen if you are really persistent? And you know what? It's a chicken and egg kind of thing. How do you know if you are persistent? How do you, if you, by starting a startup, you start and then you learn. And maybe if you are not, maybe if you feel like you do give up a lot, if you are not able to handle the pressure, grow into it. Make that effort, go through the pressure and learn it. It's a skill, you can learn it. It's nothing that you could just say, maybe I'm just not cut out for it. I'm gonna quit. That's not, I mean, that's up to you. I'm not gonna, like, I can't force you to do anything, but I'm saying that even if you feel like at this stage you are not, you could grow into it. So it's all up to you. Maybe before you were not a good fit for a startup founder, but you can learn, you can become the person who can run a startup. And it's not impossible. It's not impossible. You can absolutely do it. And I'll tell you, do it. Because when you do, even if your startup doesn't become successful, you will have those skills in your arsenal, in your set of skills, set of armory, your cash, that you can use those skills in other fields as well. So there is nothing to lose actually. You know, even if your startup doesn't work, you will learn those skills. You will be better only if you can survive. So how do you know you can survive? So I'll talk about that. Let's first talk about, why do you want to start a startup, right? Like, that's a question. Everyone has a different answer. I already told you my story, so you know why I wanted to start a startup. Why do you want to start a startup? There could be XYZ reasons. They could be, the same reason that I have. You wanted freedom. You cannot see yourself working for 9 to 5 for the next 20 years. I got fed up in like a couple of years. Maybe a lot of people, maybe you are older than me. Maybe you are much younger than me. Maybe you are still in college. Who knows? So you could be at any stage of your life and find motivation for your own self to make that decision. What could be those? I'll give you options. Getting rich is a great motivator. Like, I want to be rich, right? I want to be rich. I want to make a lot of money. I want to retire early. And then I want to have freedom of working for myself. I want to be that guy who provides employment instead of taking employment. So that has been one of the ideas for starting a startup, for starting a business, starting a company. I wanted to be the employer instead of the employee. That's a whole different philosophy that I have. We'll probably talk about that some other day. But it could be your motivator. Maybe you want to be that person. So, there could be other reasons, such as, let's say, you have a personal mission. You know, something happened to someone, and you don't want that something to happen to anyone else. That's a great motivator to start a startup. Maybe you enjoy doing something, right? Maybe you are like me who likes to solve problems. So it's a great uh, lifestyle for some, for a very rare few people. Startup is not that fun. I'll tell you this. I mean, it's fun, but it sucks a lot of times as well. So let's say you want to solve some problem. You faced some problem personally, and you want to solve that problem. That could be a great motivator. And maybe you want to be Steve Jobs. You know, I'm not saying that these are bad ideas. I'm just saying that don't dream about becoming one from the get-go. But if you want to be, like, that's my dream. I like my dream job is to create something as great as iPhone. Do it. Nobody's stopping you. I mean, do it, man. Absolutely, go for it. I am saying 100% go for it. So, all of these could be your motivators. Why do you want to? Why are these important? Because you need to have a vision. Like, why am I doing this? So, I came into this from a lot of years of, I ended up here, I would say. I did not come here, but this is how things have happened in my life that have brought me to the stage that I am at today. Maybe your life brought you to, maybe you just want to try it. Maybe you just want to start a startup and see how it is, how it feels like. That's a great motivator. You could do it, absolutely. And maybe over the time, your motivation changes. Maybe you wanted to earn money, but then, you're like, okay, money is not really my thing. I really want to solve this problem. Let's do this. So those motivations could change. Maybe some people start a business with the idea of selling it after 2 years, but then they continue working on it for like 10 years. That could be your story. So, and I'll tell you this, a startup will eat up a lot of your time. It would take at least, minimum 2 years to become something that you could say to people around you that I have a business, and then at least 5 years from inception to become something, even up to 10 years to become something really big. So that's a long time from your own life to be working at a startup. So you could do that. You could just create a startup, and if it scales, you can just sell it, make a lot of money, retire, maybe start another startup. That's up to you. What do you want to do? But what I'm saying is that these ideas will change over the time. While you are working on it, they will change. Nothing is permanent. And startup is a place where ideas grow. They change every day. That is how a startup functions. So don't really cling to those that this is the only reason why I came to, but and then I'm not just feel it and go with it. Another great question is, are you in a position to be a great startup founder? That is a really good question. Why? And you should definitely ask this to yourself, because if you're not in a position to be a startup founder and you do start a startup, you're not going to enjoy it. And if you're not going to enjoy it, it will be painful, and it's going to give you so much stress, you'll probably lose your hair. It's a real possibility. I'm not joking. Uh, See, there are two outcomes out of us if you start a startup. Either you make it, and really when you it turns into a company in a business, whatever the scale, maybe it's a 5 crore business, maybe it's a 500 crore business, it could be anything, maybe it's a 50 lakh rupee business. So even that is not bad, right? I mean, it is as good enough as a job. So, and even if it is less, then it's your startup at least. And if it doesn't work, if it fails, if it goes into the ground, can you handle that? A lot of people that will be watching this probably have a job. If you have a job and you are planning to quit that job and start that startup, it's going to be at least 1 year before you know if that startup is going somewhere or not. And if you can survive that, if you can tank that, if you can hold that for 1 year, if you can tank that not getting salary for 1 year, then you should start a startup. Otherwise, it's gonna be really difficult for you mentally, and it's gonna be really stressful because you'll be thinking about how much you are losing, and that's that's not a great feeling when you're working at something that you have no idea. You're gonna be anxious all the time, and you're gonna make wrong decisions. You're gonna be hurrying through it, and it's gonna be you're gonna be desperate. When you make decisions in desperation, that is gonna ruin you. So if you cannot survive that 1 year without a job, then you should definitely not leave a job. You could work on the startup while working on the job. That is something that you can do, but then you know what, it requires so much out of you that a lot of people have to make that choice, either startup or the job. It's not that easy. So it's up to you how you make that decision. I gave you the information that you need. And you know what? If you can't handle that, losing finances for 1 year, you should definitely not go for the startup. I would not advise you until you reach that position where you can handle going that business under the ground. It's gonna, because you will invest some resources into it, you will work for it, you will invest time, and all of that goes into nothing. Can you be okay with that? That's something that you have to decide for yourself. Now once you make that decision, what do you have to gain? There is a lot to gain from starting a startup. You will be doing things that you have never done before, and that is very difficult, but it's a learning curve. Once you learn all that, what you gain out of it is immense. Like as a startup founder, you'll be responsible to make everything happen. That means you'll be doing sales, you'll be doing marketing, you'll be doing product development, everything from finances to customer support. All of that would be under you. So that is a lot to handle, but then a lot to learn as well. All of this experience is going to be invaluable for you to decide what kind of future do you want to pursue. Let's say if your startup doesn't make it and you have to look for another vocation, then all of these skills that you have learned are going to provide you with experience that no one else is going to have. So, you know, you could probably just, if your startup doesn't work, which hopefully it does work, if it doesn't, so you can probably go and join another startup as a founder, or maybe you can start another startup of your own. So that's a lot of things that you can do, and all of those skills that you cultivate in yourself while working on your own startup are going to provide you with immense value. And you know even this channel, is it a startup? Well, it's not really a startup because it doesn't really solve any problems. I hope I hope that it would answer a few questions that you might have regarding startups, a few queries. I hope it solves some of your problems. I think, yeah, that's a power cut. Anyway, I'm gonna finish this video this time. I'm gonna finish this video in any way today. So, I have my own experience that I'm developing, my own set of skills that I'm cultivating in myself, and all of those I'm going to, probably display, demonstrate, and teach you through this YouTube channel. I hope you find them valuable. And it's not something that is not already available on YouTube. I'm sure a lot of intelligent, very smart YouTubers, businessmen have posted videos on YouTube that are already available. But this is my perspective building a startup from ground up, because every startup is different, right? Every business is different. Every startup is going to face different kind of issues, and I am a person who does not have a business background. So I have a legal background, but that does not translate into, you know, business skills. So yeah, legal skills I do have those, but business is a very different domain than what anyone, especially a startup, like it's very difficult, very different. It's a totally different environment, and that's what I'm trying to provide through this YouTube. I hope it does provide some value to you. It adds to your learning. If you are also planning to start a startup, I hope it gives you some insight. And yeah, that's the plan. Now, startups are the future. So that is also a reason you could start a startup. If you don't create a successful startup today, you can create it tomorrow. Why? Why? Because see, big businesses have to take decisions and they have to go through a lot of bureaucracy, right? Sometimes these big businesses, like Meta, uh, even Fang Group, right? Yeah, Fang doesn't exist. This Meta, Google, Amazon, all these big brands, they are very slow in decision making. That's where startups, creep in and make decisions so fast. They capture the market quickly before they can even decide if they want to publish a product or not. And a lot of times they create a product and then they, just archive it. That product never sees the light of day. So that's a real thing. And startups are going to take over. A lot of people, a lot of smart people, especially with the advent of AI, are you know finding solutions to the problems that exist. And that is a lot of people are also trusting these startups. Before it used to be an issue that people didn't trust these small businesses or small startups, but a lot of people have now started to trust them. And it shows in the development. It shows in the last 10-year records of how much funding that these startups have generated. So it's a growing market, and it's a great place. It's a great thing for everyone actually. Because what happens that a lot of these startups do get acquired by these big companies. So these big companies don't have to develop their own product, they can just buy it out. And a lot of startup owners are willing and looking to, startup founders are looking to get bought out. So it's a win-win situation for both. So I don't see any issues there either. It is going to be the future. In fact, the future is already here, almost, you could say, but it's only going up from here. There is no going back. So if you do plan to become a good founder, learn from starting a startup. Start now, and maybe 5 years from now, you'll be a billion-dollar company. It's possible. And if you don't, you could be working at a great startup as well. No, see, the startup founders, once you get that lifestyle, once you enjoy it, once you realize that this is something that you enjoy, there's no going back, right? So that's why do I say that? Because that's where I am, right? I am enjoying it thoroughly. The steep learning curve is very difficult to master, right? I have to learn a lot. Every day, search for resources to learn, to read, to watch on YouTube. There is a lot of stuff, a lot of useless stuff. See, that what happens that a lot of people do, make videos and write articles based on their experience. Their experience doesn't really translate into what I am experiencing, right? Every business goes through different set of problems, different set of difficulties that they have to solve. So all of their problems are not all of my problems. So yes, you could learn from that, but then it's a never ending, it's a sea of learning. Like how much can you learn? So the best way to learn is by doing it. That's what I'm doing. And this process of doing it, that is where you can learn a lot from. Because I see a lot of people making these videos on YouTube that where they tell you that this is what I'm doing, this is my business, etc., etc. But they don't really tell you how they did it, right? The difficulties of starting a startup, managing it, how do you, create sales? What do you do when you have no idea how to make it happen? How do you even find if your idea is worthy of starting a startup? How do you know if you are the right person to start a startup? Those are the questions that plague the mind when you're trying to make that decision, make that call for yourself. Should I quit the job? Should I? You have been thinking about quitting that job for years and years, but you still don't have no idea. Nobody's really telling you. So this is me telling you. This is me telling you that if you really want to, if you have that privilege of surviving, if you can handle that, absolutely go for it, 100%. And to end this video, if you want to start up startup, go for it. If you can live with the worst case scenario, absolutely. Otherwise, it's going to be, I'll leave that up to you. It's your call, but it's going to be difficult and you are going to be desperate, and those decisions when you make, when you're anxious, when you're stressed, are not going to be the best. Because once you start a startup, there's a lot of motivation. Like you think that you're only going to go up, but a lot of times you have to go come down as well. And when you're coming down and you don't have any backup plan, you don't have a job, backup plan, well, you can always go back to the job. But if you are good enough, of course. But it's not that easy either. It's not that frictionless. There is always some friction. But uh, if you go back somewhere with the startup experience, nobody's gonna say why did you do that. Like today we are at that point where society understands, right? People do understand, and that startup experience is very valuable, especially with the Gen Zs. I would love to find someone who has had their startup experience and include them in my team as well. That would be great. And you know, the final takeaway, it would be that it would be one of the most valuable experience that you could add to your arsenal, right? Although it might sound very repetitive, I'm saying it again and again, but it is. It's that's the best part about it. Like it's a win-win situation. I don't see any loss here. So definitely go for it. All right. Till next time.